Oh, hi there, folks. Welcome back to Funny Papers. This is your old buddy Dustin, and I'm back once again. I'd like to call it a new season of Funny Papers. There's been quite the delay, quite the kind of time lapse between, well, just a lapse in episodes for quite a while. I was thinking about it the other day, and there's a lot of, there's a television series that will take a while before they release another season. And I don't see why this show could be any different. There's probably, well, there's reasons to say that that's not really the case for a podcast. And, I've never really said that this is a technical podcast, although it is. I mean, it's kind of done in a different way. I feel like I burn hot and quick on this type of thing. It's just a matter of there's things going on, and sometimes my attention is diverted. But with that said, welcome back to the show. Thanks for coming back. If you enjoy hearing my voice, I hope I haven't lost you. And I guess if you're listening to this right now, then I guess I haven't lost you yet. I'm just hoping I haven't lost the few other people that perhaps were common listeners to the show. And I'll just I'll fill you in on what's been going on. It's been a busy 2 months. I went back and visited my folks on the East Coast for Christmas, the holiday season, and for about 2 weeks, it was something different. Travel is definitely not as easy as it used to be. Not that air travel was ever, a walk in the park. But now more than ever, you have to account for so much more time to just travel and be safe along that route. You can't go anywhere without a face mask on, and just be wary of your surroundings and what's there, and the people that you're around. I've never been one that's a germaphobe per se. But when you're faced with this global pandemic that we've been dealing with for what is it, 10 months now? Your priorities, my priorities at least, just the way that I kind of operate have changed. If I were to see myself now, or see myself 10 months ago, I'd be a slightly different person. Not in every way, but that's probably how everybody is. We've all kind of changed. For better or worse, that's just what's happened. We're dealing in a world where, it's just, who knows? Well, can you hear my paper rustling around? I'm getting a bit anxious, getting nervous now, so I'm picking up the paper. I'd figure we get back into the funny papers, and I'm hoping in this new year, 2021, that I'm able to kind of prioritize this show along with everything else that's going on, and I'll fill you into what's going on in future shows. I promise you that. There's plenty going on. There really is, and that accounts for a lot of why you haven't heard from me for a while. there's just a lot of, I'm spinning plates. I feel like, I've got like 10 sticks in the air and I'm jumping back and forth trying to spin those plates around. What a weird thing to do. I mean, to have like a bunch of sticks in the air, and you think that a fun act would be to keep those plates spinning on sticks. I mean, apparently it was a pretty cool carny act back in the day. I don't know. I guess nowadays it wouldn't be as impressive. Well, I guess if I saw someone standing there with a bunch of sticks in the air spinning plates, I'd be transfixed on it. I'd be the first to throw a few bucks into a hat if that's what they were asking for. Your little charitable donation into a hat in front of them spinning plates. Anyway, let's get on with the funny papers, the comic strips. It's funny. I have a bunch of newspapers stacked up. I don't keep all the newspapers. Let me clarify that. I pull the comic strips out of the newspapers I get every week. I don't have a stack of newspapers from floor to ceiling. I just keep the comic strips. So, just in case, I still read the comic strips every Sunday. I just haven't found time to get back on the old horn like I am now. And this is a cold read because I really haven't looked over this one. But it is the Sunday comics for January 10th of 2021. New year 2021. And I'm just gonna launch into it. Why not? On the front page I'm looking at, there's the zits that takes the top of the page, but I'm not a fan of it. I could read it real fast. Why not? I don't read it very often because I don't find it funny all that much, but let's try it since I brought it up. So here's the zits, and it's by Jerry Scott and Jim Borgman. And we start our frame out, and Jeremy has just gotten out of bed. He's wearing his red polka dotted boxer shorts and a white t-shirt. He appears to be stretching. He's got his hands kind of on his lower back, and he's arching his back over. It looks like he's cracking his back, and there is like kind of a star kind of thing coming out of his back, kind of, I guess, indicating some sound or some motion. But from him, he's going, grunt. Oof. He's just waking up. Ugh. Maybe that's the sound he makes. That's about the sound I make nowadays, getting up out of bed. Now he's moved on, and he's still wearing his same red polka dotted boxer shorts and white t-shirt. He's out on the front stoop, and he's picking up the newspaper off the front steps, crouched down, picking him up, and his eyes are still kind of half open, looking at him, or looking at the newspaper. He's moved on. He's back. He's moving inside. He's got the paper opened up, and it looks like he's reading something in the paper, and he's scratching his butt. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. Scratching his butt through those red polka dotted boxer shorts. And now he's in the kitchen, and it appears that his mom, her name escapes me, but she's standing at the stove, and she's wearing her pink robe, holding a spatula. She's got a couple eggs and a skillet on the stove. And Jeremy's walking by behind her, sipping on a cup of coffee. And he, as he's walking by, he says, "Morning, beautiful." slap. And he spanks his mom on the ass. Can I say that? I suppose so. Yeah, he spanks his mom on the butt. As he walks by drinking his coffee. Nonchalant, too. He's just looking down at his coffee cup. But his mom has this just excited look on her face, just surprised, really. Mouth agape. Just because she can't believe that it just happened. Her son just walked by, slapped her on the butt, and said, "Morning, beautiful." That is strange. Well, it keeps going. It moves on. So now it appears that Jeremy and his buddy are in Jeremy's van, taking off down the road. And in hot pursuit behind him is Jeremy's mom in her pink robe, a spatula still in hand, chasing after the van as they take off. And Jeremy, saying off to the side, he says, "You can only take the dad as a role model thing so far." Yeah, she's chasing him with her spatula as they drive down the road in their van. It's kind of like a hippie van that they're taking off in. I think that's the one Jeremy has. I think it's broken down in other episodes. But anyway, I mean, yeah. I don't know. I guess that's why I'm always kind of at pause to bring this one up, because I don't find it all that funny. But that was the zits. I mean, I don't know. I guess Jeremy got up, he grunt and groaned, he grabbed the paper and slapped his mom in the butt on his way out the door, but she wasn't into that, which for good reason. I mean, come on. I don't know. You can only take the dad as a role model thing so far. And that's what Jeremy says on the last frame. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Well, let me move over here. Do you like the sound of my paper rustling around? Does that work for you? It works for me, I suppose. It's kind of, you know what? Have I ever talked about that? The smell of a newspaper? There's just something about it. I just love that smell of newsprint. I don't know. There's a lot of people that like enjoy the smell of like gasoline, which I can kind of relate to. There's certain smells that just I don't know, just bring it. It's the olfactory sense, which I've talked about before. It's a very memory-inducing smell, or sense rather. The olfactory is smell. But that's what I'm getting right now, turning this paper around in my hands. I just turned to another comic strip, another classic, and that's Beetle Bailey. Beetle Bailey is a really old one. It's been around for a long time. I can't, if I had my notes out right now, I could tell you exactly when it started, but it's in the neighborhood of 50 years, 50 plus maybe. But going strong somehow. I don't, it's just an old classic. It's one that's just, it's funny. They don't have to bring politics into the issue. They just kind of comment on everyday things you can relate to. And I relate to this one in particular, and I'll explain that. But let's get into it. It's Beetle Bailey, and it's by Mort Gregg and Brian Walker. And we've got Sarge, Snorkel, I think his name is, Sergeant Snorkel, and Beetle. And they're standing outside, and they're standing kind of right next to each other, staring off at the wall of the barracks. And, Sarge is wearing his regular kind of mustard yellow uniform. frumpy looking hat. And next to him is Beetle in his regular kind of camo green fatigues, his uniform, and his that hat pulled down over his eyes, as is usual. And both of them looking off in the same direction. Sergeant says, "I want you to paint this building." And in response, Beetle says, "Why? It doesn't look that bad to me." And now we've kind of zoomed in and we see them both a little closer up, and Sarge is sitting there with kind of a defeated and just kind of uninterested look on his face, with Beetle next to him looking up. His hat's still covering his eyes, but Sarge says, "Just do it." Beetle in response says, "Do you think it should be power washed first?" And now they're looking a little closer at the wall, and Beetle's kind of scraping at the wall with his finger. Just kind of looking at the situation, figuring things out. He says, "What about prep? Should I scrape or sand?" And behind him, Sarge, kind of looking up in anger, says, "Just scrape." Beetle's still thinking about it. He's got his hand up to his mouth and he's thinking about it. And Sarge is kind of walking away with his eyes up in the air, just a little annoyed. Beetle says, "Should I use brushes, rollers, or spray?" And Sarge says, "Well, whatever." And now they're kind of walking along the back of the barracks now. It looks like they're just... Beetle's just intent on surveying this job to its fullest, I guess. But Sarge has his hands on Beetle's shoulders, pushing him along. As they're walking, Beetle says, "And what color? I'll go get some paint chips." And off, kind of in the corner, off in the distance, there's two other recruits. They're wearing the same uniform as Beetle, I guess, indicating that they're probably the same rank. But they're watching Beetle's kind of skirting around the issue, just delaying it. But they're watching him with smiles on their face, and one recruit says, "Beetle's the world stalling champion." And the other recruit right behind him, in agreement with a smile on his face, says, "The prince of procrastination." There's Beetle Bailey. Yeah, Beetle was definitely procrastinating on that project. And who could blame him? Painting sucks. It's funny that I turned to this one and it just happened to be so close to home for me, at least. I just got done painting the inside of my house. That was part of my, what I would say, quote unquote, quarantine activity. After my travels back to the East Coast, I decided I needed to. Just after traveling, I had to spend a little time at home on my own, just to make sure that I didn't pick anything up on my travels back or anywhere else. And I decided that the best, the good activity to do would be to paint the house, which is what I did. That's what I've been spending the last week doing. And it's mind-numbing, absolutely mind-numbing. So I don't blame Beetle for procrastinating that issue. It's no fun at all. And in fact, I've procrastinated the painting of my house for so long that I don't know, that it's just silly. I finally got around to it, and I'm glad it's done now. Jeez, it's just no fun painting. I don't know. And while I was standing there, while I was doing the activity, I stood there and thinking to myself, anybody that truly enjoys this type of activity must be some sort of psychopath. Because it's no fun. Okay. What now? Let's see. What now? I'm flipping through the page and I'm smelling the pages. Smells so good. Smells like memories. Okay, how about the pickles? I know I do this every time, but you know what? I'm sure you're tired of hearing me flip through pages like I am just now. And actually, this one's kind of funny, it seems. Looks like. It usually is. Pickles is usually pretty funny. And The Pickles is by Brian Crane. You know the story of The Pickles if you've listened to this show before. The Pickles is about an older couple. And I'll probably set this up 1,000 times now. But this one's a little different, I guess. Well, kind of a similar kind of setting. But Earl, our old friend Earl, the old man that has got a receding hairline, white hair, and a white mustache, and glasses, has looks like he's walked to the park and he's met with his friend Clyde. Clyde's sitting on a park bench. He's reading the newspaper. And Earl's just kind of, he's just arrived and he's wearing a green jacket, blue jeans, and a big red scarf around his neck. Big red scarf that's trailing off screen, off frame. He's got his hands in his pockets and he's looking down at Clyde, who's just looked up from his newspaper. Clyde's also an older man with white hair and glasses, and he's sitting on the bench, blue jeans, a brown jacket. But Clyde's looked up and he asks Earl, "Is that a new scarf, Earl?" Earl kind of picks up the tail end of his scarf that's right in front of him and looks down at it. It's kind of a red woven scarf. He's looking down at it and he says, "Yep, it sure is." And now he's still got the tail end of one end of the scarf up in his hand, and he's holding up another side, but that long scarf is still trailing off frame, off behind him. And he's looking down at it and he says, "Opal gave it to me for Christmas." Clyde's kind of looking up at him, a little bit interested. I don't know. He looks a little confused. And Clyde's he's asking Earl a question. He says, "Why did she make it so long?" Earl's standing there, kind of defeated, his hands at his sides. He's not holding the scarf in his hands anymore. He's just let it fall. But it's still trailing off. He says, I don't know. Who knows?" And now all of a sudden, that tail end of his scarf that's trailing off the frame gets yanked tight off screen. And off in the distance you hear, "Earl?" And Earl, turning his head, says, I'm coming. Clyde's looking over at him. Not much of an expression on his face, just kind of watching. And that's the pickle. So I guess Earl's scarf trailed all the way home, and Opal had the other end, and she decided to give it a good snap to call him back home. I'm guessing that Opal made that scarf, and she made it that long on purpose to keep Earl on somewhat of a leash. I think that's kind of what it's alluding to. He's on a leash, only it's a really long knitted scarf. I just like that it's pulled tight. It's a funny visual of that scarf pulled tight. You know, the entire scene shows it just kind of draped off on the ground and trailing off behind him. And then on this last frame, it's whipped tight, straight out with with Opal's yell off in the distance. Earl! That's the pickles, and it's a good one. It's a good one. I don't know how to relate to that one. You know, I a few years back, I learned how to knit. I don't know how many. You know, there's probably not a lot of men that know how to knit. Yeah, I don't go around spreading that bit of information, but I guess I am now. Now you all know. But one of my after learning how to actually do the process of knitting, one of the first things I did after learning that process was I built some giant knitting needles. They're enormous. I mean, they stand like 4 feet tall. And really, as they stand now, I don't use them. They're just kind of a sculpture that I have in my house. But they're giant knitting needles, and that's exactly, that's what they are. That's what they look like. When I first built those, I ended up making a giant knitted like rope rug. It was actually pretty cool. I enjoyed doing it, and that was really that was the project that I kind of had in mind at the beginning. In my practicing before that, I'm about halfway through a scarf. I haven't picked it back up because I don't know, maybe I don't have the patience for it. But it takes a tremendous amount of patience to knit something. And I guess if Opal knitted a scarf long enough to stretch from their house to the park, that's a testament to some extreme patience. Yeah, there's the pickles. And my little bit of commentary that goes along with it. I don't know, what do you think? One more? I'm really gonna pull this one out of my behind because I haven't looked over any of these. Okay, I'll do one more, and like I said, this has not been vetted. I have not looked at this before, but it's just it's a go-to that I'll go to, and we'll see where it goes. It's old Garfield, and it's another one of my favorites. If you're any fan of the show, then you know that it is a regular occurrence on this show, which is Garfield, and it's by Jim Davis, and it's very simple. Looks like it should be a simple one. Garfield's standing there. It's just him in a frame, and he's got that uninterested look on his face with his eyes kind of what would you say? They're just half shut, I guess. Kind of glaring eyes. I don't know, just not interested. And he's staring forward. He's got both hands out in front of him. Kind of look like he's like clapping or something, but he's got them out in front of him. And he says to himself, Okay, continue for the next 40 feet. Now he's raised his hand up and he's got his thumb out over his shoulder. So he's gesturing somewhere. Same look on his face, hasn't changed. Now turn right. And now he's moved his other hand forward and he's gesturing in another direction. Same look on his face. He says, merge left up ahead. And now he's turned really fast and he's pointing off in the other direction. Swooped around. Now he's got his eyes wide open. He looks surprised. He says, U-turn, double back. Seems like he's giving directions. And now, Garfield's got both his hands wide out on either side of him. This is a big, wide open, kind of embraced, just arms wide open like he's ready for an embrace. Smile on his face, eyes wide open, he says, there it is. You have reached your destination. And now we see Garfield's actually been standing in the back of in the front of a shopping cart. And pushing that shopping cart is John, who, looking right at us with he's looking right at us. He says to us, "He's my supermarket GPS." And standing in the basket in front of him is Garfield, holding the box out in front of him with a big grin on his face, looking right at the box. He says, 2 for 1 lasagna noodles. 2 for 1, that's Garfield. 2 for 1 lasagna noodles. I wonder, are they just buying lasagna noodles? You know how difficult or how much work it takes to actually make a homemade lasagna? Is that really what they're doing? I mean, John is, if John's always making Garfield homemade lasagna, that is an amazing thing. That's worth some praise. Because we all know that Garfield is a lasagna-loving cat. But if he's always eating lasagna and it's homemade, that's something else. I mean, you'd think that they would just spring for the Stofers, take and bake thing, preheat the 350 and throw it in there for an hour. But if they're making homemade lasagna, that's no small feat. I'll say that because I've done it before. I mean, it's much better to make your own homemade lasagna. Don't get me wrong about that. But it's definitely a lot more work. My cousin Julian, who used to live with me, roommate, he used to call them squares. He'd call anything that was like casserole baked a square, like a square meal. It's kind of tongue in cheek. But I do like my lasagna as well. A quick update on Nemo. Nemo the cat, my cat, he's all good. Yeah, he wasn't so happy when I left for about 2 weeks over the holiday break, but he was sure happy when I got home. That's for sure. But he's all good. He's all in good shape. Nothing new there. And otherwise, everything else is good. I'm gonna keep you posted on kind of what else is going on. I'm gonna try and keep up the rate of this show. That's gonna be my my first charge here coming up into the new year, 2021. There's plenty of things to do, and not only with this endeavor, but also with my own work. And I'll keep you updated on that as well. I'm going to try and parse out my time a little better. I kind of have a hard time sometimes making sure that I have a weekend for personal things and then a week of actual, work towards a certain end. It seems to get blurred when there's really no set day of the week. It doesn't matter if it's a Saturday or a Tuesday, you know what I mean? So I'm going to try and get a little better at that, I hope. And it may not really matter, honestly, but that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm working on now. And you guys will be the first to hear. So, it's been great to have you around. Thanks for coming around. If you're on the website, if you're on any of the podcast networks, please like, subscribe, comment, if you will. Commenting would be most appreciated. And let's make sure that this new year, 2021, is better than last year. we'll make sure that that happens. So thanks for coming around, and until next time, this is your old buddy Dustin, and I'll see you in the funny papers, my friends.